Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here, ready to talk about day 3, Massachusetts versus Karen Reed trial. This is a retrial. Last year was a hung jury, so it's a retrial, a ridiculous retrial conducted by the state of Massachusetts. The district attorney, Michael Morrissey. This is a case that should have been dismissed, never been indicted, but we're in Massachusetts here where the politics run really deep. You can easily get railroaded, and you don't even necessarily have a judge that's going to stop the prosecution from running roughshod over all your constitutional rights. So let's look at day 3 here to recap. We've had a continuing testimony on cross-examination of a Daniel Whitley. He was the paramedic EMS worker. And so we had defense attorney Yannetti cross-examine him. And some of the keynotes I'll highlight for this in case you all missed it. And if you had seen it, just to recap some of it to show you how, what I see as some of the important details to glean from it. He said that in his memory from April of 2022 is as good as it is today, which I thought was another witness for the prosecution saying that their memory is so great it either gets better over time or it never degrades over time, which is pretty preposterous. And he talks about how in 2022 grand jury, he said he didn't believe that Karen wanted to give a urine sample. The key operative word is believe. And so it went from a belief that Karen didn't want to give a urine sample to now, when he's testifying, he states that she affirmatively did not want to give a urine sample. And he was aware that she had her, on a cross, it was brought out, though, that he was aware, though, that she had her period and would not be able to get a urine sample standing alone. And then he made this excuse of, well, it was a medical situation. He should be medically alone. Well, that still means you're with somebody there. It doesn't mean you're going to obviously have it with a public viewing. So those good points that were brought out on cross-examination. And the witness conceded that eventually Karen did give the urine sample in question. So that right there looked like he was trying to embellish his testimony from 2022. Another point was from 2022. He said that never had Karen told him that John had spent many hours in the snow. Then in 2024, he said that Karen asked whether a person could be surviving many hours sitting in the snow. So that was a question mark, mind you. And now here in 2025, he's saying that Karen affirmatively did state that he had been out in the snow without a jacket on for many hours. And so that was something on cross-examination they were able to bring out, that it was, as it turns out, it was a question, not a declaration. It was a question that Karen had asked, not a statement as if she knew that he'd been out there for a number of hours. So it wasn't a declarative statement at all. It was just merely a question. So this guy, like I say, he's just not as bad as the other witnesses for the state. They're really embellishing and putting a spin on their testimony when they come in here. But the witness here was definitely discredited some. And then on redirect by Brennan, there was a weird comment he made. He said, if you knew Carrie Roberts, you've been to her block parties. And then he made this quip that when you're at the block party, do you ever step out and have secret meetings with Carrie Roberts trying to corroborate some conspiracy on their behalf? And the witness thing, and then sort of goes, haha, no. And so it's like, this is an effort by Brennan. It's like really I thought a way he's trying to mock the defense argument that this is a conspiracy among folks that are prosecution witnesses. So I think that he better stay away from that if he wants to be credible. This is an issue that a lot of people on the jury should be getting by now, that there's a lot of stuff that's shaky and shady with the prosecution's witnesses. And just comparing the opening statements between the prosecution and defense shows that there's a huge gap in what the prosecution has been telling the defense. The prosecution also then has to play clip 5, the ID docuseries, and that's when Karen is talking about his mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, I think he looks like he got hit by a car. He looks like he got hit by a car. And she makes a really like angry looking face trying to mimic John's mom. And so this is something that the prosecution was trying to get in, and the judge allowed it to come in. And it's sort of like, I guess it doesn't make Karen look like a friendly smiley face where she's imitating the mom, but it actually makes Karen look like she's imitating the mom act. And based on what the mom said at court when she testified, where she makes jokes and was sort of mean about her own marriage, saying she's been married too long, and sort of got the jury laughing there. So it's something that I think it's something that's not going to help the prosecution at all. If anything, it sort of humanizes Karen to show she's a person that wears her personality on her sleeve. She's not a fake person. She's very genuine, sincere, and she's outspoken, and she's confident because she knows she didn't do anything to kill John O'Keefe. Then we heard from the general manager of McCarthy's. That just gave the custodian records testimony for the surveillance video, and she gave it to a detective. Then we had a general manager from the Waterfall Bar and Grill. Again, the surveillance video, there was no cross. Then we heard from Mike Camerano. He's age 48 from Canton, a married guy with 2 kids, a friend of John's. And their kids were in sports together. He met John at his sister's benefit. And on direct examination, really, it was just talking about what they did that day. And that Friday, the 28th of January, they spent some time together. They're celebrating their daughters getting the same school, went to McCarthy's to drink. Karen then shows up later. They're in a celebratory mood. He didn't see any issues between Karen and John. Mike eventually left, picked up his daughter from John's house, went home and went to bed. Then he woke up from calls from his wife and Karen, drove to John's house between 5 and 6 in the morning in a panic to get Kylie, John's daughter. Saw the garage door open. Kylie looked distraught. He comforted her, took her to his house. A couple hours later, Paul called, asking to bring Kylie home. Didn't stay long, went home, and then went back to John's the next day. Then on cross-examination, Yannetti said he had known Karen for about a year. He had trusted both Karen and John with his kids in the past. He had let his kids go on vacation with Karen and John. And his daughter would sometimes spend time with Karen without John being present, and even sometimes in Mansfield, where Karen's house was. And he said that there was really no bickering and arguing with John that he noticed, except for John would get upset if she bought too nice of things for the kids. For example, getting their nails done and an expensive sweater. So Karen was really stepping up and really trying to help these kids, treating them with caring and loving gestures like buying them gifts, taking them things, doing things that looked like she's trying to really help John out. And he said that John had never said anything about planning a breakup with Karen. And then with the storm coming in, John asked Mike to move his car so that Karen could pull her car into the garage later. And he thought that was thoughtful. And John then wasn't sure why Karen needed a plumber to go to the house, because he had someone to go who could have done the work. And he noticed that there was affectionate greeting at the bar between John and Karen. There was some embracing, and he kissed her. And then there was some laughing. There was no arguments. And then on redirect, Brendan talks about how he doesn't know what happens behind closed door. And then was there any jealousy in the relationship? And he says, well, they did everything together. And he mentioned that Karen didn't like the other women around John. So these other women that I mentioned last night, we heard about how Carrie Roberts is always involved in John's life, over at the house many times. We heard from John's mom that said that she saw Carrie all the time. So he sort of got the indication that Carrie was really more welcomed as a woman around John rather than Karen, because Karen was just a different. She was an outsider, didn't fit in, highly successful businesswoman, very much highly accomplished, comes from a very accomplished family. Her dad was the dean of the business school at Bentley University. So she was also an adjunct professor there. So just sort of a different mindset, different cultural background. Next, we heard from a Massachusetts State Police officer, Garino. He talked about the different text messages between Karen and John up until timestamp 8:38. So it went from that morning all the way until till that 8:38 time frame, like I say. And what happened was the text messages really were revealing about the kind of relationship that they had, and you really get the impression from text almost every hour from about a almost seems like 11-hour window, that maybe it was 12 hours, that there wasn't a lot of commitment on John's part to Karen. And it looked like he was just trying to set things up, like he was trying to make an exit. That's what my impression is from me being a guy listening to a guy talking to Karen that way through text messages. It just really looked like he was not committed like Karen was. And Karen, to her credit, she was basically saying, look, if you're not interested in me, because she asked several times, like, if you're not interested in me, just tell me. I'll be gone. No questions asked. I'm out of here. So, but he wouldn't say that either. He made it look like it later on in the day, like his dad's there, the kids are there, and he just wouldn't pick up the call. Karen called many times. He just wouldn't answer the call. And on the text messages from this police officer, he just noted that it was refused. The call was refused rather than going to voicemail. So John could have been cool about it and just, hey, look, honey, I can't talk to you now. People are here. Even though she knew that his dad was there and the kids are there, he couldn't have just stepped out for a second and just to calm her down. So it looked like he just didn't take her serious, and it looked like things maybe could have been winding up between them. But Kieran was not somebody that's desperate and going to fight and get angry and go at him in a crazy manner, go psycho on him. So that's really the gist of it. And what had actually happened was it makes you sympathetic to Karen actually being a very, very sincere, very loving person, and a person that was taking John serious, and it wasn't reciprocal that way. John was not taking her serious. He sort of string her along. And so I think that Karen making the statement that, look, just tell me if this is over. I can live without, you'll never hear from me again. And you really get the impression that she meant that. She's not going to sit there and make a fool of herself. And think about it, John, she's really in a much higher caliber than what John would probably normally date. So I think that was something that was really that was great for the defense. I think this was not harmful. I think Brendan's going to try to argue. See, she was about to be kicked to the curb. That this relationship wasn't going anywhere, and that's why all of a sudden she lost it and wanted him dead. I mean, that's just that argument is just so flat, and it doesn't fit anything about Karen's personality. And then he goes on to show some various clips. Clip 7 talks about how that Karen had 4 drinks at McCarthy's, a restaurant bar, and only a few sips at the waterfall. She felt okay to drive. Then in clip 8, she said she was feeling buzzed. Interview clip number 9, she said the final count was probably like 5 or 6 or 4. Most alcohol was consumed at McCarthy's. There was weak pours. They taste like soda water. John said, just get a shot and mix it yourself. So each drink was being counted as double. But for my taste, I just like what a regular drink should be. So she had 2 or 3, but she says they're being counted as 4 or 6. She did feel like she was buzzed, but she said she didn't touch her last 2 drinks. Then in interview clip 10, she says, I'm not as clear as I would have been had I not been drinking. I had drank, so that led me to question, could I have hit him in the knee? Did I incapacitate him? I always blast my music. I didn't black out, but I wasn't as lucid as I would have been had I gone to bed at 9 and had a tea. So now she's admitting that she's been a little bit under the influence of alcohol. And in clip 11, they played, she said, I wouldn't have taken expressway at 12 a.m. on the 29th. The roads were quiet, were the ones she had taken. However, I have a few drinks and drive. I know my alerts aren't as sharp as they could be. So yeah, I shouldn't have been driving, but I know I wasn't driving recklessly. There's plenty of camera footage of me driving all around. And then it ended early due to a witness scheduling issue. And tomorrow is the jury's going to have a view of 34 Fairview. The jurors will be bussed there. Again, there's orders saying that any folks from the media have to be 100 yards away. They're going to have tons of cops there. And in any event, I just thought that and they really ended only after a few hours. They had a really long break, so it's really almost like a part-time courtroom. This is like really strange to see. They start out not even at 9 o'clock like they're supposed to. The judge is usually always late. I don't know if that's because they're waiting on a late juror. So, but even starting out at 9 and they have like a long break, it seems like over like almost 40 minutes or something. So they really only went a few hours today. And so overall, I think that this was still a win for the defense because today it showed the human side of Karen, that she was really committed to John and John was not committed to her the same way. It looked like he was making up reasons to distance himself from her. She mentioned about how she got smacked with a pillow in the morning, and he was sort of blowing things up and exaggerating things. And he mentions, "Oh, I'm just tired of the fighting." And then, it seemed like the fighting was really instigated by him because it's just an excuse to break up with her. So that's my takeaway. And I've seen some other comments throughout the day off and on. And it seems like that is sort of a consistent theme. You guys let me know what you think. And I did see some comments here before this live stream started where it looked like I heard some comments saying that it looked like the relationship was sort of immature. So let me go through. If you guys have any questions, I'll go ahead and answer those. If you have the ability to put a red emoji there, that will help me pick your question and distinguish that from comments among yourselves. Sioux City Sue, you're saying, I think the text backfire big time. I think you're talking about the prosecution. They backfire in the prosecution. Donna Yerkes, you're saying it's from the sound of the text today. It sounded like Karen was too good for John, wasted a lot of time. I mean, she spent 2 years and helping them out with the kids and all that. It's just like really, it's really, yeah, you really do feel sorry for her. So I thought this was a win for the defense. Brittany, you're saying John seemed to be ignoring their relationship issues, acting mature like an adult. Karen wanted to talk about it, and he kept blowing her off, making her come across as needy. It was so weird. And then she'd like call multiple times. Yeah, he was trying to like say stuff to get her upset. And then it's like, then she's going to call instead of just texting these cold texts, these blunt message texts. Lila Rose, you're saying John sounded like he was just playing with her emotions, but when he needed the ride later, he would decide to play nice to get what he wanted. Golden says the text explained why she was so angry later on after he didn't come back to the car. Yeah, because she said, if you're dropping me, if this relationship is over because you think we're fighting too much, the fights had to do with him. It looked like trying to find up with reasons to get an argument, and he just wouldn't come clean and say, "Look, I'm not into exclusive dating. I don't want a girlfriend anymore." And she just couldn't get a straight answer out of him. So yeah, I think it all ties in with the fact that she doesn't want this guy dead at all. DS on YouTube, you're saying typical immature couple, one person ready to talk after an argument, the other needs more time. Yeah, that's what John was saying. I just need more time. I need space, both insecure and lack relationship skills. Yeah, John was saying I need time to get over this, stuff like that. I mean, that's I think that's a typical guy thing when you're like pretty much you're just trying to like you don't have the courage to say, "Hey, look, I'm checked out. It's over. Just move on." And you don't want any drama, so you sort of string them along. Queen Olive, you're saying I've dated men like John in the past, argue then being ignored when you want to talk about it and work it out is a horrible feeling. Christine, you're saying John dated a few women in Canton before Karen. I guess there was a number of them. I could see why she's being insecure. I mean, I'm surprised she stuck around with all these women coming around. I mean, Jen says she loves them. You have Carrie Roberts around him all the time in his house. Anna says, I believe John had a drinking problem. Like a lot of cops, they need a designated driver, and he was hell bent on going out that night. I mean, a lot of folks in stressful jobs do drink a lot. I mean, I could tell you, attorneys, that's probably just as higher than law enforcement types. Law enforcement types, they need to respond to a lot of gruesome stuff, and you can easily get PTSD and try to drink your sorrows away. So, Melissa Nevon, you're saying I don't know if she's innocent or guilty, but she's being railroaded, in my opinion. Yeah, well, that's a good sign that they realize they don't have enough evidence against her. If you have to railroad somebody to get a conviction, you shouldn't be trying the case. That's what it comes down to. Ms. Kate, what can we do? We stand up, we speak, we call our reps, we write letters, nothing's changed. I guess keep writing the governor's office, keep writing your representatives there if you guys are there. Hanker, you're saying you think it's going to come down to jury tampering again. Well, I don't think they're going to be able to tamper all 12 jurors. I think at worst for Karen, it's going to be a hung jury. Maya Rodriguez Sorensen, who's a lawyer, says, I didn't watch trial day, but I heard that Judge C let the clip of Karen impersonating John's mom in. How does that prove anything? It just makes her look bad. Well, that's the whole point. They're trying to make her look bad. It wasn't a legitimate thing to be brought in. And, she said that she leaned over the kitchen island, and Brennan brought up that, well, they don't have an island when he was questioning the mom. And she says, no, we don't have an island in the kitchen. Okay, so Karen mistakenly thought they had an island. That wasn't really a whole point to rebut. So he's just trying to like bring up stuff to make her look bad. But I think what I would argue, if this was my case, I'd say, look how human Karen is. She's saying like this is how the mom acted, and the way she talked about her husband and other stuff at the trial. You can tell she's very much a person that would act that way. So I think that this goes to show you that Karen's a real person. She's not fake. So I think it helps show she's likable. She can be direct, way more direct than people, but that's what happens. Real people aren't fake do tend to offend people that like to be fake. Anisha and Peggy was extremely jealous of Karen. They all were. I think that is the case. It sounds like Karen was liked by John's dad, but not the mom. Kathy Prosser, that's what they're all doing this time, embellishing their stories. Maybe they think, hey, if we embellish it, we won't have to come back, testify a third time. Hello? Queen Olive, you're saying all the witnesses are embellishing their testimony this time around, but the defense is nailing them on cross. Defense is ready to fight. Yes, they are. So of each day in arguments now, we have a win every time by the defense. Colleen, you're saying, doesn't she also have a problem with the son who's always in court? They never sit side by side. Yeah, I noticed that. First trial, Paul, the brother of John, never sits by his mom. Anna, you're saying that you think John's father is suffering. Karen used to go to church with him, and they're kind of close. Yeah, I heard that they went to Catholic mass together. So Karen was really trying to integrate herself, be taken seriously as a long term relationship with John, but John just wasn't interested. You get that. You can definitely get that from the conversations we saw today. Dolores Hamilton, you're saying all the sports mom had crushed on John. They made him a saint. No wonder Karen Reed was jealous, but he was jealous of her too. He liked all the help the ladies gave him with the kids. Absolutely, from what I understand, highly successful professional career woman. A lot of guys, if they're not making as much as their significant other or spouse, they can be very jealous. They're very envious of that and insecure about that. And that can cause serious relationship issues to the extent that it can be hard to find a serious significant other because of your highly successful career. I mean, the kind of money that Karen was making, it was probably like 3 to 4 times what John was making, and a lot of guys can't handle that. Most guys, from what I understand, can't handle that. Or, he tries to rehab his witnesses like defense attorneys, but, he's so inappropriate. Yeah, I mean, making that cheesy comment like today um, about having those block parties and you have secret meetings. Yeah, that's just it's just not professional. Christine saying, "I pray that the jury can see all these incestuous relationships, generational relationships, and I see that Karen was the outsider that pinned it on the girl." I mean, Karen definitely was the outsider. She was easy to target, and she had something to drink. Her memory wasn't there, so I think this whole thing was she was an easy patsy to be the fall person for this because they could pretty much tell her what she did. Oh no, you went to 34 Fairview. She said, I don't remember going to 34 Fairview. I left John at the waterfall. It's like, no, you didn't, Karen. You went there. So she's like trying to put two and two together. And I think she was programmed by Jen to believe a whole lot more. And that's why until the uh the physical forensic stuff really came out, Karen would have thought, well, maybe I did it. It must have been an accident. So I can totally see that happening where an innocent person could have been set up to believe that I must have done it. How else did this happen? I mean, you don't think people that that are around that vicinity would do something so vicious as allow a Boston police officer to die in the snow like that. But truth is stranger than fiction. Thanks, Debbie J. Thoughts on the clips Brennan is playing and damages they may cause? Yeah, I just think that it's the clips. Some of them sound sort of like, yeah, it's not something I'd want to have my client say if Karen was my client. It doesn't really look good. I still keep scratching my head. Why would the defense put her up to that, not have it tightly, controlled on what your strategic messaging is? But anyway, I think it shows that Karen's just comfortable and relatable and says stuff that maybe not make sense at the time, but she's just being herself and being easy and speaking the truth, which is, I guess, for her a sense of freedom that I'm not being hiding. I'm not hiding behind these charges and waiting until I have to testify in court. Because really, when you have a defendant that the prosecution cannot prove beyond reasonable doubt in anywhere close, then you really should not ever put your client on the witness stand. No, Noel, you're saying I'm worried that we think we're doing great, but because we've been keeping tags for so long, the jury's feeling something else. Well, I just think that, granted, I can't read the jury how they're looking at the witnesses. They're saying all this, but I'm just telling you from my experience, having done so many jury trials and bench trials over the years, this kind of stuff, from my experience, jurors pick up on this and they realize they're getting a different bill of goods than what's reality from the prosecution. The defense is making a lot of points, and so, and then if we get the ARCA witnesses in there, it's a slam dunk. So that's what they're trying to avoid, is a slam dunk home run witnesses from ARCA. Prosecution and the judge are trying to do an ambush. It's been reported that only one juror member seems to be taking notes. Yeah, I just that can be a little bit odd, perhaps, but keep in mind, if their notes are being collective and they're writing stuff down that could look like they're questioning the prosecution's witnesses, that person could be a target to be kicked off as an alternate. So it's probably a better thing they're not taking notes. But there's going to be, when they got 150 some witnesses, I think it's better if they do take notes. But thanks, Christine. I will do that. Cat Love Dreaming, you're saying, is there any part of you open to the possibility Karen is actually guilty? I get the feeling that you made up your mind she's innocent, but I'm waiting for the evidence. Well, I'm just looking at the evidence myself as well. I came in this with an open mind. I didn't really have any conclusions one way or the other. I just looked at whether they could prove it beyond reasonable doubt in the first trial, and from the information that that was before me, I didn't see how they could win the case. There's no way you can get a secondary murder case on this. I don't care how many times you try it. There's nothing about Karen's behavior that acts like she wanted to kill him. All right. So it's I mean, they can't even get a voluntary manslaughter out of this. Okay. So it's something that I can tell you, as I said last time, there's law enforcement types. I've had them on the show, retired North Carolina trooper, Carolina. He says this whole thing is a joke, it's a rigged show. So many people say this thing is that are in law enforcement say this thing should never be tried. This thing has no legs to stand on. It's a complete abuse of process. And what I've been hammering home is the constitutional aspect. So Kat, I can tell you, if you had a family member treated like this and they're being railroaded and they're keeping out the main evidence and massive critical pieces of evidence to help exonerate a family member of yours, you would be outraged. And the thing is, if you have to suppress the truth to get a conviction, it's a dirty, corrupt system. Okay. So that ought to scare you. That ought to scare you. And so even if there is some evidence of that you think there is of Karen being guilty, I'm telling you, as a lawyer that practices the Constitution and has used the Constitution as a shield, it's supposed to shield the citizens of this country from folks that are out of control. Our founding fathers knew that folks get out of control when you give them power. And this is an absolute abuse of power there in Massachusetts. And they can just trample over anybody and frame anybody easily if you don't have any checks and balances in a system. There are no checks and balances there in Massachusetts. So it's going to have to, if it's not the jury, if the jury's hoodwinked because they don't have the real information, the real scientific, forensic, physical evidence, and they are kept in the dark, is there a chance there could be a hung jury? Absolutely. But it's never going to survive an appeal. And that ought to be scary to you also. The fact that they're gunning for somebody and trampling on their rights. And I'm just telling you, as a lawyer, it's automatically going to get reversed. Okay. What's this stuff Hank Brennan's doing? It's automatically going to get reversed. The judges abuse their discretion. And there's not case law that tells you that how bad it is there in Massachusetts to keep this stuff out. But it's longstanding, well-established case law from the Supreme Court on down in federal courts that what this court is doing there in Massachusetts is just flat out an absolute abomination. Here we go. Michael Crawford. He's saying I said the same thing tonight. Those videos might humanize Karen for the jury. So tomorrow night, 18:30, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, 5:30 Central. I'm going to join Mike, and we're going to do a recap from this week, doing a Q&A. So catch us all there. Christine, you're saying Peggy and Paul do not have a good relationship. Well, then she must have had a good one with John. You know, John must have been the favorite. So my heart goes out to her. No mother should have to see her son buried. Maya, the lawyer, says, I hope that those clips don't sway the jury. They're not probative of anything. I think Hank's just trying to make it look like she's not a likable person. And some of you may think that, yeah, she's not really coming across that well. Like I can think that as well. But overall, I think through the course of all this coming out, I think it just shows sympathy. I think this is the day that the jury gets some sympathy for Karen Reed. And that's going to help her when they're playing these other text messages and calls where she's really upset because John just basically wouldn't come out of the house and threw her to the curb. That's what she thought in her mind anyway. Mel Mack, you're saying I think these clips will be negative for the state. It just makes it look like the state's is trying to prop up some big monster, that Karen's some monster that wants to just kill off her boyfriend. It's just, there's just nothing there. Tattoo T, you're saying, can the defense bring in an incriminating text between Jen and Curry through Jen and Cross? I feel like the defense is going to do that. Yeah, they should be able to do that, but with this judge, who knows? The judge doesn't like pro-defense evidence coming in. JPC, Peggy had nothing good to say about her husband or Paul. She actually rolled her eyes when she mentioned Paul. God. Christine, you agreeing with Young Jerks and I? You don't think these video clips hurt her at all? Joe, the prosecution trying to make this usually instead of a trial. Dolores, Peggy wasn't needed when Karen was around. She took care of the kids. She's young and fun. Kids probably preferred her to Peggy. I mean, yeah. I mean, Peggy's not going off taking them to get their nails done. Probably not buying them expensive high-end sweaters and stuff like that. Otto, you're saying Brandon skips around too much. It's confusing. The judge runs a terrible courtroom. Boy, she's so differential to the prosecution, how much time you need. She never cuts them off. She even cut off Alessi today. I mean, it's so degrading and insulting, the way she treats the defense. It's so disgusting to see that. Deborah Hager saying, I don't think John's mom, Peggy, saying at the hospital. What is she doing here? She is his girlfriend for 2 years. Did they not ever meet? No, it's part of the thing where I think she would have preferred to have somebody like Carrie there, right? Carrie's the one that she wanted, but John wasn't interested in her. Anna thinks that once all the evidence is shown and played out by the defense, hopefully the videos won't mean much to the jury. I don't think they will. They're not going to make Karen out to be the monster that Brennan hopes they do. Lisa Louise, you're saying I don't think you agree. I don't think the interview clips are the flex Brennan's looking for. Liz M, I was not guilty now. I'm not so sure. Keeping an open mind. Yeah, keep an open mind. I mean, there's ample reasonable doubt. Christine Hirabashi. I'm going to butcher your name. I'm sorry. Hirabayashi. Very odd. No one in the house came out when the police were all over the front yard, and the police don't interview the owners of the house. Makes no sense. It looked like a haunted house. It was so dark. And like I say, that's something I would do if I was defense. I would find out how often their lights are out. Neighbors may not tell you, and they've already moved, but try to find that out if you can. And if the lights were suddenly off that night, John was out in the front yard. Why were the lights off? They would have seen them even easier if the lights were out. And if people are coming over, wouldn't the lights be on? We haven't heard any testimony about the lights. Anchor could Brennan adding more details to his evidence than the first trial work in favor of defense since the actual truth is clearly not on the Commonwealth side? Yeah, I think he has this view that the more he digs into the details of this case, the more it looks like Karen's guilty. But I think that's the opposite. The more you dig into the case, the more you see that something's really going on that does not make Karen look like she was in on it. So yeah, I think that's backfiring. So even though he's going to go way scorched earth, way more detailed, be way more aggressive, he does know how to present evidence better. He's obviously being way more aggressive than Lally ever was by bringing all these video clips in. But like I say, I think in the end, he's he's trying to do everything he can to present this projection of who he thinks Karen is, some monster. But I think it's going to backfire on him. And just think about it. If he throws in all this stuff he wants that he thinks is negative to Karen's case, that's going to help him get a conviction. It's all incriminating his mind. But then he's keeping all the stuff that's exculpatory, stuff that can show she's innocent, that this whole thing was a setup and frame job, and he still loses. Wow, what does that tell you about the system? Lisa Louise, you're afraid Bev's going to exclude ARCA. It is diabolical, the rulings. ProHawk DJ, you're saying Paul O'Keefe testimony in trial one said his mom said John looked like she was hit by a car, verifying what Karen said in that video. All right. Yeah, but Paul's the one that said it looked like he went 5 rounds with Mike Tyson, a former heavyweight boxer. Yeah, Christine said Peggy mentioned in court that Patrick is having a hard time. It makes me sad. I hope the children find peace. I'm surprised the defense didn't object to that kind of testimony coming out of what impact did this death of John have on the kids. That should not have been included at all. That's really a dirty move by Brennan because this is not a victim impact statement you're supposed to be bringing out on the prosecution case in chief on a death homicide case. That's sentencing stuff. You're not supposed to inflame the passions of the jury to talk about how this devastated the kids. And I mean, what's that got to do with proving your case? Talking about the impact on little children of someone dying. So it's just like trying to inflame the passions of the jury to find somebody you want to convict. So it's totally out of line. I don't know why the defense didn't object. Amy Danielson, I really wish she had just kept her mouth shut, not giving the media all these interviews. Why in the world did she do it? Because her attorneys told her to do that. That's why. I think it was really the lead one who was there most of the time, which is uh, Ellen Jackson. And that goes against virtually any defense attorney, any pretty much any defense attorney you talk to say, no, don't talk to media, don't talk to me. They're not your friends. And then what do you have? Sure enough, look at all these statements. Then I think that helped flip Court TV. Court TV is now totally against Karen, and they're trashing her. So don't agree with that strategy, but it is what it is. You can't undo it. Rita Young saying she needed the money. Simple. Yeah, I don't know how much money she got for that, but even if you are going to talk, you think you'd have, some kind of parameters on what you do talk about and not say something that's inconsistent or hard to reconcile. Kitty Gonzalez, you're saying both Morrissey, the DA, and Canton police chief have been in major accidents. I'm not tracking that. Amelia Little saying, I think the judge will allow ARCA but limit their testimony. That is bad too. She's out to gun them down. I can tell you that. I'm worried they won't come in at all. I really think she's going to be that desperate. Let's keep the language clean on this channel. I think you're new to the channel. So if you're new to the channel, keep the language clean. Don't want to have any F bombs or foul language on here. Trying to have it courtroom type language. If you wouldn't feel comfortable saying to a judge on a case you're a party to, then I try to use that as a standard for what I want for professionalism on the channel. Thank you. Mailback, you're saying Karen is supposed to set up a trust fund for the children. I've not heard of that, but that sounds like something Karen would do. Queen Olive, you're saying the Mean Girls. I want them around my man. Either I think John liked the attention from all the women, whether they're married or not. Googly eyes over him. Psychology 9, you're saying her father was a dean. You're talking about Kieran Reed. He's such a great speaker. He's just such a likable, sweet man, isn't he? It's so you just feel so sad for him and his wife and Karen too, but I really especially feel sad for him. What a disgrace that state is. Hale saying they'll keep family except for dad didn't like Karen. Boy moms can be very protective of their sons, but just because you don't like her doesn't mean she killed him. Yeah, I've seen that before where moms or even grandmas can be so protective. And I've actually seen that in my own family with my grandma and how she had treated my mom. Rosemary Galler says, I always thought it was the guilty people that did timelines. Noel saying, yeah, Karen's anxious and John was avoidant, bad combo. Thanks, straight up news. Jen Newman says I agree, she was trying to express feelings. Yeah, she was trying to express legitimate feelings, talking seriously about where are we at in this relationship. Are you do you want this over? And he wouldn't even come clean with it. He wouldn't say, no, I want to keep this going. No, we can work things out. He's just saying, I need more time to think it over or talk about it. I'm not ready yet to talk about it. I mean, that's Lon Late. You're saying he was trying to get her in the house for the whole snow weekend. He didn't want to break up. Linda Willoughby, do you know Karen personally? No, absolutely not. I don't. My wife and I had been up to Boston last year, but I wasn't even following this case at that time. It was last summer. I think it was August or sometime around then. Jet, not in Frisco. Used to be near McKinney there, the law office, but now in San Antonio. We got here, Marianne. Thank you. You're saying Carrie said a PC was missing on the light, and the Sally port said it was all gone. A piece was missing on the light, and Sally port said it was all gone. Yeah, I mean, the Sally port had it completely smashed out. Initially, she said it was. She made it sound like it was not as much. And then in her testimony this week, she made it sound like it was a bigger rectangular piece. So that would sort of make it look like it was. It could sound like it was more of the Sally port type thing, where it's completely smashed out. But that's obviously not what it looked like when it was picked up on the tow truck. Java time, you're saying it's a bad decision to have to do all those interviews. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's, but like I say, I think when you put everything in the totality of the evidence, I don't think it's going to amount to that much. there's more evidence to show that she's got an alibi. And if she's got an alibi, guess what? She's not guilty. If we know Karen was like halfway back to John's house and John still has his phone he's moving 25 steps and his phone shut off at 12:32, so she's like probably more than halfway to John's house, and people coming and going out of the house, people looking out the window like Jen McCabe, and they don't see anything. That's an alibi. And then you got all the strange behavior for people in the house, the strange people in the house, and the 911 call. I'm telling you, they need to play that 911 call. I wonder if that'll even be played by Brennan. He's going to hate playing that in court. That 911 call is suspicious as all get out. Rosemary saying Mr. O'Keefe, John's dad, in other words, was hoping she was the one, keeping his fingers crossed for Karen and John to marry. They said it all except the mother. Patty B says Karen is guilty of drinking alcohol. Yeah, she shouldn't have drank alcohol like that and driven. Sandy, you're saying it sound like one of my relationships, more than one of my relationships, with many who won't break up and won't commit, acting like a teenager, very immature. Yeah, that's what I think the jury's going to pick up on. That they're going to look at the immaturity level as more on John than Karen. Hale says, I feel bad for John. I think they didn't help him take care of the kids, and he took it out on Karen. Well, Karen did mention that she wanted to get together alone with John because she thought the kids were a problem. Kokomo, Indiana. Can you imagine the grave concerns of the defense didn't have a witness ready? Yeah. Why is the prosecution not ready to go with more witnesses today? I mean, it's like she'd be chewing out the defense and punishing them, and I mean, she'd be giving them the riot act. So, yeah, the prosecution. It's like she works out of the prosecutor's office. Laura, you're saying it was intentional. IMO. Hank wanted the text and videos to marinate in the jurors' minds as long as possible. That's why he's going to keep dripping these along. There's what, 44 of them. We got up to what, 9? Yes, Sandy. Even the cops are getting drunk and driving with their firearms. Jojo, notice how no one's really discussing the Canton police chief resigning. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. Right after this, while this case is going down, the second time she's resigning. Is she worried about something the feds are going to be doing? Yeah, Ruth, I agree. You're saying when Brandon doesn't have witnesses lined up, the judge is fine. On the defense of that, the judge would freak out. Oops. Sorry, I got my drink here on the screen or on the keyboard. So I jumped way back. I'm gotta move the comments forward again. YouTube user, if Karen backed up 60 feet, where was she when she started to back up? If by the flagpole, she should have backed into Higgins' Jeep. Well, keep in mind that Jen tried to say that she moved past the flagpole, like more in front of the next house. And then to account for that 62 feet, that now Hank's trying to say it was like 70 something feet. But if you were able to go 24 miles an hour, which I think, as I understand what that Lexus vehicle, you can't even go that fast in reverse, especially on a slick road when they got snow there. It's just a safety feature. So she would have kept sliding. How she would have hit the brakes, slid, and she would have slid. Yeah, she would have slid into Higgins' Jeep. Higgins' Jeep was right in front of the mailbox. And so if John is up at near the flagpole and she hit him, she probably would have ran because there's a little bit of curve there. Maybe she would have like ran off over into the grass area and then maybe been stuck or something or kept on going, hit the mailbox and Higgins' Jeep. So yeah, that's a good point. It just doesn't add up. Prosecution's theories is so far-fetched, crazy. All right, so now I'm going to pull something up here on YouTube. Give me a second here. Okay, one of the things just as a data point, I was talking to Leslie today. We both agreed on this. One of the points that I think is very much a example of how something that is actually shows more of along the lines of acting innocent rather than acting guilty. The prosecution is trying to say that Karen's acting guilty. This is guilty behavior. So it's something that's very little, very little sliver of information. They think, aha, this means she's guilty. Look at how she's acting differently here. This shows consciousness of guilt. That's something he's always trying to argue. Consciousness of guilt. And so what I want to show you is something that actually shows it's not consciousness of guilt. It's consciousness of, hey, something's wrong. We got to go find John. Where's he at? Come on, everybody, help me. We got to find him. This is really desperate. We need to find him. He could be dead. We don't know what's going on. And so look at this here. I'm going to play this and we'll talk about it.
You saw the ring video of you and Miss McCabe and the defendant going into John's house?
Yes.
Had you seen that video before today?
Yes.
Had you been shown it before in
Yes.
other proceedings?
Yes.
When you went into the house with Miss McCabe and the defendant, did you do anything before you went into the house, actually in the house?
When we took off our shoes in the.
You took off your shoes?
Jen and I both took off our boots
Why did you take off your boots?
because you had to take off your shoes to go into John's house.
Well, you say you had to. Explain to us a little bit of the background on that.
John was a neat freak. You were not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Had you ever worn shoes in his house?
Oh,
Had you ever seen anybody wear shoes in his house?
no.
You and Miss
They do
McCabe?
now. They do now.
You and Miss McCabe took your shoes off?
Yes,
Did the defendant take her shoes off?
she did not
How do you remember that?
because Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house.
Wow.
Do you know why you were called that morning?
So listen to that. Jen is taking 2 minutes to deal with her boots. And this is a life and death situation for John O'Keefe. Why isn't she rushing in there? And who cares about whether you took your boots off or not, or your shoes off or on? This is like a life and death situation. So this shows that Karen, who normally would take her shoes off and boots off, was rushing around trying to find her. She's that desperate to find John. And what they're trying to do, what Hank's trying to do is say that, no, that shows that she actually knew he was already dead. In other words, no need to respect John's wishes anymore because he's dead. Just forget about his house rules. He's dead. So I'm going to start acting like how I want to. I'm not going to respect his wishes anymore. No. So what it actually does is shows Karen is the one acting consistently, showing she actually loves and cares about him. And she's not going to sit there and spend a couple minutes fiddling around with her boots when it's a life and death situation. Look at how much slow rolling and dragging her feet Jen McCabe does, right? Whispering on the 911 call, not giving out too many details. Of course, if she would have mentioned it's a cop down, the 911 dispatcher would have been flooding her with details, wanting no information. What did she make it sound like? Oh, somebody just passed out there. Not really sure what happened, who it is, a guy, a dude, a man, whatever. She used those kind of vague terms, not saying, hey, a man I love, a Boston police officer, and said his name. She never said right away, this is John O'Keefe, Boston police officer, man down. We need rescue here right away. Send an ambulance right away. And she never asked how many minutes it's going to take. Why? It's all looking like a slow roll, even going to John's house. It all looks like it was delayed to get the help John needed. So, and what's this Brennan doing? He's trying to make things that look like desperation efforts of Karen Reed. It's actually a sign that, hey, she knows John is dead. And so I can just bring out my snow-filled shoes and let the snow melt all over his wooden floor or whatever he has, because I don't really care that he's now gone, because I staged this whole thing to make it look like I'm not the one that hit him, yet she's going to say I'm going around saying I hit him, and I must have hit him, or did I hit him? So I mean, this is like, you're going to be that, what criminal is going to sit there and go around and be that suggestible and gullible to folks around that are trying to pin it on you, and they're the ones acting strange, and then you're going around saying you might have done it and acting like you really love the guy, and gee, maybe something did happen. Could I possibly have done this to him? So no, it's all consistent with Karen was taken for a ride, and she fell for it hook, line, and sinker. She didn't know what these people were up to. She didn't know Jen McCabe that well. So Jen McCabe is central to this whole case. And I'm telling you, that 911 call, they need to play that with Jen McCabe on this stand. And I would say that the prosecution is going to hate playing that 911 call, because it feeds into everything the defense is arguing, that this thing is a setup. Jen got set up. She became the fall person, the patsy, when the thing with the snowplow driver didn't work, and she mentioned she had a taillight out. So, sorry, taillights in a car supposedly going fast in reverse doesn't do this kind of damage to a body. GS on YouTube, you're saying one video clip proves that Boston cops are allowed to take their bar drinks with them and get it in a car. Another privilege we don't get. Jurors will not like this. I'd also bring up how much they make. When these officers get on the stand, I'd ask them how much they make a year. I guarantee you, Brandon's going to be objecting. Tall Glass, you're saying, oh, Karen gave John O'Keefe life-saving CPR and prayed for his survival. Yes, she did. Ashley Nell, do I think ARCA will come with their lawyers? You know, that's a good question. The way they've been bashed around and verbally abused by this court and prosecution team, it's just despicable. Jen Newman, you're asking, is it possible Lally refused to prosecute this case again? That's why Brendan was hired. I think they realize that they need to find the person that can put a spin on this and just is willing to go after her. And basically, it's like a hired gun. You pay somebody to go after Jen to do your dirty work. Because it's not a winnable case. It's certainly not winnable on appeal. Yeah, the judge looks like she's Morrissey's puppet. Yeah. Lucky boy, Brandon. Why does there appear to be so much ring camera footage missing from John's home, and there's also no ring footage from Cop's home on Fairview? Yeah, that's sort of a consistent theme, isn't it? And yet they're going to try to maybe argue that Karen's the one that deleted stuff. MCU text messages portray John O'Keefe as a passive aggressive man who did not treat Karen well. It seems like a push pull relationship. Kokomo, Indiana. Kids are having a hard time, and yet Hank will put them through it again. Breaks my heart. Janine, Brendan is panicked. He'll do anything. That's what it looks like. Last trial notification of the children, Bev Laudate. Yeah, that's really something, isn't it? Normally you'd keep that out. Why are the names being mentioned? In limiting pickets, the interviews are going to end up helping Karen. I mean, the fact they're out there, I'm just going to, so far, we don't know what all of them are going to show, but I mean, so far, I think you got enough to work with to explain them away, and mention how that just shows Karen is a down-to-earth, honest, sincere person. She's not overly polished in how she comes across. G. Lander, I haven't heard anyone address the possibility of Karen Reed's MS diagnosis and its possible effect on her mannerisms might affect an effect that may have cast her in a negative light. Well, also going to maybe affect how she's driving a car. That's a good point. And how about alcohol? How's the alcohol use affect her driving a car? Also, keep in mind when she was talking suicide and her dad called 911 to have Karen examined, and they went and picked her up and brought her back for an examination. Remember, her mom was talking about how make sure you get the pills out of her purse. So that leads me to suspect she was probably on some kind of antidepressants. And if you take antidepressants and you're drinking alcohol, there's some kind of synergy effect that can and will take effect. And so maybe she only had a couple, but most people, I'm telling you, they don't realize the synergy effects of any kind of uh, meds that you're on and consumption of alcohol, especially some hard liquor like she had. But yeah, that's definitely something that I would just bring up for the sympathy factor that she has MS, and maybe remind that is an issue for her by bringing that up through different witnesses. Miriam, you're saying you have to also keep in mind that 11, that's right, 11 of the same police officers here who turned a blind eye, each in their scope of control of the investigation of the Sandra Birchmore case. Yeah, that is like such a scathing indictment that they did not go after that cop and ruled that a suicide. Colleen says, yeah, Karen did media to pay her attorney. She lost her house already. KFG, you're saying Karen will be found not guilty in spite of the judge. Yeah, the judge is so biased. You're talking about that. Kim H, you're saying Brendan bringing the kids to court is very bad on him. He does not have children and knows that this will impact the rest of their lives. Yeah, that's you don't need to bring kids. What's the point of bringing kids there if he does that? Okay, Law and Lit, Court TV is on the prosecution side, and Lisa, you're saying Court TV has always been against Karen. I don't remember them being against her in the beginning. I don't. And Samara, you're saying Vinny sometimes supports Karen. Well, the Court TV, for example, is saying they keep saying that she ran over. She's accused of running over her boyfriend with her SUV. That was never alleged previously that she ran him over. If you're saying it's Julie Grant, Vinny is definitely more Team Karen. Amber E. Court TV has some of the worst guests. I've been a guest on there before, so hopefully I'm not in that category. But yeah, I mean they can get people just to fill space that don't know what they're talking about. I've seen that before. I remember being on one where a defense attorney from Dallas, said they thought that Wendy Adelson came across credible when she testified. It's like, what? Wow. That's a shocker. Yeah, I remember you saying Julie Grant used to back Karen Reed. Yeah, I'm not so sure the judge is going to allow ARCA. Amber, you're saying Court TV has been as Karen from the start. Morrissey added him to his email list around the same time as a hostage video. Citizen Payne, you're saying Brennan had to resort to an autopsy photo to get Carrie to cry. Dr. Monk's understood. You're saying Karen was not paid for the interviews. Please make sure this gets corrected from someone's earlier comment. That's interesting because what it probably did is help bring attention, and so people were motivated to fundraise for her. So I think that's what it came down to. Luis is able. You're saying that Brennan has nothing going for him, so making Karen look bad at jury so they can dislike her. Yeah, that's not going to be enough. Even if somebody says, "Yeah, I don't really like the way she's coming across. She doesn't seem to be a very nice of a person," but I think today helps negate it, having it look like she was being strung along by John. He didn't take her serious. AT, that's a good question. Will ARCA or the feds file a motion for protective order or something else to the very broad discovery order? I think the feds will intervene in the discovery order. I don't think they will, but boy, this judge, she is just out for blood with these guys, these ARCA guys. Like I say, I've never heard of something like this. Any defense practitioner has never seen anything like this in America. I guarantee you, where a judge is just out of control, trying to help the prosecution find some dirt on ARCA. Yeah, because it's too late, Karina. If she blocks ARCA, the defense can't get new experts. Colleen, you're asking about lawsuits against the judge. No, there's no lawsuits against the judge. They have such a ironclad qualified immunity from what they do. Yes, Maya. Karen's dad seems wonderfully so kind and approachable. He has such, the pain in his heart. You can just see kind and approachable, and of course, supportive of his daughter. Yes, he is. Tiff just adores. How can you not love Bill Reed? Yeah, Miriam says the ARCA witnesses can't give their opinion on medical injuries and testimony. Yeah, the one he's a biomechanical engineer, can't talk about the kind of injuries that would happen from physical objects hitting the body. That's just, well, it's reversible error. Marcia Braga, you're saying, does it make sense in your opinion for the feds to have finished investigation and nothing was done with all this corruption? Well, do we really know it's finished for sure? I'm not so sure it's finished. And maybe that was just a ruse to let the state think that they could now go back, turn on corruption mode, full spigot. Turquoise Blue, yes. I think Bill Reed is going to take the stand. They have him on the prosecution witness list. Carrie's perjury indictment. Why would AJ think interviewing would be a good idea? Don't know. I mean, maybe he thinks that it's going to help fund her defense by people seeing Karen talk about it. But the things she said just don't always line up properly. So that's why it can look bad. JMM Barkovich, you're saying this case ought to open everyone's eyes, spot the corruption in our own communities outside of Massachusetts. Sandy says Jenna's directed this man an idiot since the beginning. Liz M, you're saying, okay, I found the no salt taillight video y'all are talking, the YouTube channel, Been Trouble 31. I've not seen that lately. I know there were some videos there. All right, let's not disparage groups. Miss Smith, last trial, Jensen, Carrie told her that Karen was a babysitter with benefits. Yeah, I recall that. Michelle Steinbeck says that Karen was too useful to dump her. Salem Spinks, I think the whole point is we'll never know exactly what happened to John, and that is reasonable doubt. Yeah, we don't know what exactly happened. And that is massive. There's this reasonable doubt every which way you look on this thing. Bella, they had all the typical relationship with trials and tribulations, life. Jim Glathar, do I think Karen Reed should testify to clarify her comments to the media? I don't think so. I don't think you need to. I mean, I haven't seen all the comments yet, right? So, but I mean, they don't have the physical evidence, and she's got an alibi, so I don't see why she would need to testify. Monkey Boy Brandon, why does Bev continually need to board our all Karen's professional expert witnesses at huge expense of none of the Commonwealth? Seems very intentional and premeditated. Yeah, I think she's trying to grind them down, wear them out, and have them just give up and say they don't want to take part of this case. That's what I think the goal is. And that way you don't even have to get an order excluding them. They just resign on their own. Map 1962 says you don't flip a video and add new timestamp if you're not hiding something. Yeah, supposedly they're saying the video was automatically filmed and inverted that way, but what about the timestamp info? Sandy, you're saying there's one small round piece in the middle after you hit John's car. The rest is Proctor. That sounds right. Thank you, Miss K. You can thank Leslie for getting me on this case. She was one covering it before I was. Courtney Brooks, and I can't wait to see the two Brian's testify again. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yep. As Deborah Hager says, ex-trooper Mike Proctor had all wrapped up in 16 hours. Yeah. Yeah, such a professional job. Andrew Peterson, can the defense strategically place the entirety of the videos for their context during the case? You know, it all depends for rule of completeness. If they're trying to say that that was misleading, that excerpts that Brandon is playing, then you could try to bring that in or even object to what is being played now, that it's not accurate enough to what the conversation context was. But they haven't been objecting to that. So apparently those are standalone ones. But if they weren't, if they were misleading just to not have them cover further tape, then I would definitely object. And if not, then it's hard to bring in your client's own statements because it's a rule that allows you to bring in your party opponent's statements, not your own client's statements. Annie Lavelle, if the car had a bumper and she backed up, there's no way the car would hit his face or his elbow. It's really the back of his head. So why would the back of his head be hit by the car? And then if it hit the back of the head hit the car, it's like there'd be a dent in the metal. Why would his head be turned where it's like going to hit the tail light? I mean, that's really, really so stupid. I'm curious to see, do they not call Trooper Paul and then call some new extra that comes up with a new theory? What happened? If that happened, I'd call Trooper Paul in rebuttal. Call him on your defense case because his story was just so preposterous. Peter Psycho, you're saying, do I think the defense has been successful in exposing and changing testimonies of CW witnesses? Yes, I do. Are they being too harsh with these witnesses or is it necessary? No, they're not being too harsh at all. You better be robust and aggressive. This Susan saying the text helped the defense. Yes, Deborah, everyone was drinking a lot that night. Saying if Karen had backed up her car at that speed at that distance drunk, she would have wrecked the car. I mean, there'd have been a whole lot of issues that, number one, I don't think it can go that fast in the snow. And even if you could, you wouldn't be able to stop in any kind of short distance. And yeah, you would have smashed into a mailbox and also possibly, or for sure, the Jeep with a plow that was parked out front. It was Higgins. Lewis, you're saying I don't really understand a witness are getting away by adding to their testimony from last year. Yeah, it's sort of like a consistent theme here. So they're sitting down with Brendan beforehand. So is Brendan the reason why their testimony gets embellished? Definitely seems odd, but I'm glad the defense is pouncing all over him. Job time. Have I ever had a case where so many witnesses' memories get clear as time goes on? No, I've never seen witnesses actually say that their memory gets better over time. they'll try to come up with more details, and when you call them on it, normally they're not going to say, well, yeah, my memory gets better over time. I don't think I've seen that before. So yeah, that's really weird. Like I said, the witness we had today said their memory stayed the same. It's just as good as it was three years ago. I mean, that's not possible. Mr. Monk's understudy in the 911 call, Jen McCabe says John got out of the vehicle. Why didn't they ask where he went after he got out? The defense should be asking for this using the 911 script. Yeah, they need to hammer that 911 call massively against Jen McCabe. Marsha Bragg, you're asking, is it normal for the feds to finish their investigation? Nothing happened with corruption. So obviously, we don't know that's over. Even if they did tell the DA's office that it's over, who says it's over? So we don't know for sure what the end story will be. Dusty Blue, you're saying that does not look good for the Commonwealth either, with Rafferty resigning. Maybe she's resigning because she's disgusted with how Karen's being treated. Melissa F., you're saying retirement is not resigning. Okay, she retired though, but yeah, why wouldn't you wait till after this trial's over? If you're saying she doesn't want to lose her pension, she's on the witness list. IMO. Deborah Hager, you're saying really big deal resigning. Feds are way ahead of them all. Or even if it's retirement, it's the timing of this, it does look like there's some kind of consciousness of something shady going down. Yeah, I'm not going to go off on the judge tonight. I've said enough. It's just too upsetting to think about this judge's rulings. Wow. Yeah, Barkovich. Yeah, Rafferty said the federal investigation is complete. Well, yeah, maybe they told her that just to see how they act. Holly's mom, do I think Bev will exclude ARCA, Judge Canoni? I think that's what she's gunning for. I think the defense is going to have to put up a real vigorous fight of argument. All right, let's see here. Dode, you're saying why would the judge tell the jury not to watch, read, or listen to anything related to the Karen Reed case, but then allows Hank to play all those clips of interviews Karen did? Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that too today because they're gonna. I think a lot of jurors, especially if they're younger jurors, they're gonna want to research this case. As soon as they were subpoenaed for jury duty, they're probably researching which case it was about. They probably heard it or something. So I think that they're probably doing a lot of research on it. Oh, that's right. The chief did hit a pedestrian. She was not charged. You're saying Rafferty was in Sallyport and likely knew everything that went down. Hanker story saying Higgins was the only person who ever noticed his Jeep by the mailbox. Laura J. Getting rid of your dog, selling your house under market value, redoing your basement again. Getting a new phone, not coming outside, or bigger signs of conscience of guilt. That's what the defense is going to be hitting home on. The shoes thing is so stupid. Well, it just shows you how desperate Hank is. He's trying to talk about who took their shoes off. So as I said earlier, I don't know if you caught it, Stevie Howell, but I just mentioned how something that shows that Karen was legitimately concerned about finding John O'Keefe because he was missing and it was a blizzard out. And they're trying to turn it around to show that she didn't take her shoes off because she's trying to show that she knows he's already gone, a goner. So just so ridiculous. This shows how much of a clown show this prosecution's case is. Yeah, like Joelle Taylor says, well, if John's shoes were at the door when you took off yours, well, then you guess he wasn't home. Well, if that's the rule and so much automatic, why would Carrie and Jen not say, well, we know he's not home because his shoes aren't here? Yeah, last thing you should be worried about after your shoes. I mean, think about it. If you thought a family member had something desperate or deadly happen to him, would you sit there and be worried about whether you had your shoes off when you're running through the house looking to find them in desperation? I mean, just ridiculous. Yes, yes, Kate, that is correct. Leslie, Lesly, though. Different Leslie here. This is the craziest case. Yeah, just because you got a prosecution so out of control, and then you have a judge out of control as well. That's this makes this case so crazy. Yeah, and my attorney says she'd die of embarrassment. It's so insane to raise this shoe case, this shoe issue. It's like I'd be hammering that on my closing, saying that's how desperate they are. They're trying to say that the shoes prove something against Jen. It proves that she was desperately trying to find him. It shows something really strange about Jen. So the more they try to focus on Karen, something incriminating about Jen pops up. So that's what I'd be arguing. Jen Newman, you're saying, I feel like Jen was stalling her, suggesting they go back to John's house. That's what it looks like. So why is that stalling going on? Karen was talked out of going there. She wanted to go right away back to 34 Fairview, and she was talked out of going there. They did all this goat rodeo running around needlessly instead of going directly to 34 Fairview or calling up 34 Fairview and say, hey, can you guys check over there? Or calling the police says, hey, can you show up to 34 Fairview? Not only is John O'Keefe gone, but my sister and her husband aren't answering their phones. Please get over there. Something's going down. G. Lander, yes, explains why Carrie made a weird comment and they walk in without shoes, taking off shoes now. And that's why Karen Reed felt like she was the only one with sense of urgency. So why didn't flip this around on the prosecution defense? Why is Jen taking 2 minutes? That's something that Carrie blurred out, because remember, she just can't keep her mouth shut. She talks too much and reveals too much, in the words of Jen McCabe. So she's saying it takes 2 minutes to mess with her boots, taking her boots off. I mean, that I would say that is very incriminating against Jen McCabe. Like, she's trying to stall. And why is she trying to stall? So yeah, flip the script. So that's what I do when I got a client and the prosecution does stupid stuff like that. I flip the script. Even if a witness comes in, if I know my client's guilty, I mean, I should say, if my client is innocent and they're coming in, they're trying to make them guilty through other witnesses, and it looks like it's damning, I know through my research that I know I can, in the end, win. So I just assume this witness I can flip. So somebody like a Carrie Roberts, in my mind, I'm going to get them to flip and admit some really critical things against Jen McCabe. That's my mindset, and that's what I'm going for in my questioning. And so I look at them sort of like, hey, any witness against me, I'm going to somehow flip around. I'm going to bring out incriminating information about their character, about how they're doing stuff that's shady, corrupt, how their story is compromised, how it's pack of lies, whatever you want to call it. And so basically, I reel them in and I use them to support my theory of the case. So that's exactly what the mindset I would have if I was defending this case. It's like, all these prosecution witnesses, I'm going to flip it around. Everything they're trying to say that they think is incriminating against my client, I'm going to flip it around and make it look like they're actually helping support my theory of the case, which is my client is innocent. And that's a classic example, this stupid thing about, oh my gosh, Karen never took her shoes off, and she knows that John would never want that to happen. Did you catch Brennan's Freudian slip when he said defendant, then corrected himself and said Jen McCabe? Yeah, I didn't catch that at the time, but I've heard about it. If somebody, let's see, I'll have to go back and look for that. If somebody has it readily available, if they want to shoot it to me on my email, you can shoot it to me, steinbecklaw@gmail.com. Leslie, Carrie Roberts was likely poisoning John's mom on the way to the hospital, telling her Karen hit her car. I'd place money on it. Yeah. That's a good probability there. Ron, you're saying, didn't Karen want to go back to the bar, thinking that's the last place she left him? Yeah, that's according to Jen, that's what she said. She goes, wait a minute, why would he be at 34 Fairview? I left him at the bar at the waterfall there. And she goes, no, you didn't. You dropped him off here. Well, how does she know she dropped him off? How does she know she dropped him off? So that's also like saying that she saw him get out of the car, just like she told 911. So I would use those two things to show Jen McCabe, he got out of the car. And Karen left and she was home while his phone is still moving around. So that's how you just flip the script on these prosecution witnesses. Jam, it takes a hammer to even crack a taillight. How do you think the taillight was broken by John's head? Yeah, I mean, a head, the back of a skull isn't the blunt kind of force you need to crack something like that. His battery saying it was cracked. And where's all these pieces? Somebody also sent me an email saying that somebody has what with insider information. Thanks for sending me that. I don't think I've responded back to you via email, but you said that there was a party the weekend after at the Alberts. The weekend after this happened, maybe it was 2 weeks later. Maybe it was 2 weekends later. A party at the Alberts house. Is that possibly true? I'd want to know that if I was defense counsel. How could they be having a party at their house knowing a cop died in their front yard just 2 weeks prior? If that's true, I definitely want to bring that up. And I think actually I'm thinking now it was 1 week after the death. So you'd have a party there at the house 1 week after an officer dies, and people walking all over the yard and stuff like that, and nobody saw the plastic tail light pieces then. Bumbling. Why would she hide hitting him, pretend she didn't know, and then tell her when she hit him? I mean, that's just so absolutely insane. There's a man in the snow, says Anna. That's what Jen says. There's a man in the snow whispering it and making it sound like it's not too serious. It's not too severe, but do send some help. And I'm not going to ask you to rush or anything because as a Boston police officer, I don't want to volunteer too much information. Keep it very low key and quiet. Yeah, Corey, it's everyone against Karen. Yeah, she's the outsider. She's the outsider. But like I say, just dig into these details, flip the script on these prosecution witnesses. Old bag, you're saying Hank's looking like he's beating up on Karen. No one likes that. She'll become sympathetic to the jury. The clips are just making Hank look like a bully. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I think the way he's dragging this thing out too. Notice the judge helped bail him out, saying we're going right on schedule. We're going right on schedule, even though they wasted most of the day. See, Shay, you're saying the 911 call is very incriminating to Jen, in my opinion. Absolutely. Every time you listen to it, it gets worse and worse. Just like the Wendy Adelson interview. It gets worse and worse, more incriminating every time you look at it. You get a different appreciation of the calculating way they talk. Queen Olive, yeah, Brandon started to say influence, and then he stopped himself when he's talking about how Carrie was influenced with Jen. Yep. But I would just, for the first witness, you want to bring it out, just say, you make 322,000, just blurt it out. What do you say? Objection and whatever. At least you get it blurted out. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, stand by. I got another video clip to show you. I'm not the best on tech, as you guys know, but I'm working it here. Okay, stand by. Let's see what this one is here.
Of a different PowerPoint, which is from the old data, 2023, but it is information that was not introduced at the last trial, although it was clearly provided to the defense in advance. And what it is, it's healthcare data of the defendant's watch, and Jennifer McCabe's watch. And what it does is it tracks her heart rate from midnight all the way through the next morning.
So he calls
although that
Jen
information was
McCabe the
available to the
defendant.
defense, they could have done what they wanted with it.
There you
That
go.
information
There's
was never
Hank
put
Brennan
in a
calling
PowerPoint
Jen McCabe the
presentation.
defendant.
I do not expect
So,
Reno to talk about it during
is
his
that
testimony.
him
He's
thinking-
a witness. I'm going to ask the court.
Why is he calling her defendant? How do you do that kind of slip up? He's so precise with his details. Bringing in 2 powder plants. I don't believe Jen was outside the car when she made the 911 call, and I don't think in the first trial she said she was doing CPR. Another Carrie lie. Julia Nielsen, is that from overtime? Seems very high for cops. I mean, what kind of cop makes 220 to 330 some thousand a year? There's not anyone in the United States federal government that makes that kind of money on a salary, except the only one higher is the president of the United States, even the vice president. So chief of police at Canton and lieutenants make more money than the vice president of the United States. I mean, is that not absolutely insane? Jenny Ravy, you're saying when trying to impeach a witness, instead of offering to refresh their recollection, would be sometimes helpful to say, do you deny it? In circumstances, of course. Yeah, you could do that. I've not done that before, but that could be something you could do. And but if they say, I don't remember, and so you could use that as a prelude before you go into that. Charm free, you're saying hitting a body in reverse going 25 mile an hour doesn't shatter polycarbonate. I'm sure Sandy says, I'm sure they didn't give Lally a choice. Yeah, Sash, they're saying they hired a defense attorney to prosecute Karen while defending the third-party culprits. Yeah, that's... Mrs. K, they need to have a Lexus expert to explain the poly light. Citizens painted. Yeah, where's all the ring footage? Bugs Bunny's brother running into that house shows panic and motion, not like these two who took 2 minutes to take off their boots. Yep. That's something that Jen is going like, darn it, Karen, you opened your mouth again. You had to tell him that it took me 2 minutes to take my boots off. Oh God. I think that's I think that's gonna be something that they can have fun with at trial. I'm telling you, Jen is going to be something else at this when she's testifying. She's got to be cringing. She's got to be way more nervous than Karen is. Karen Reed is. Yeah, Mrs. Smith, last trial, they couldn't prove Karen had access to John's computer. Even the kids said she didn't know the password. Yeah, I remember that. Also, why is the video missing from the library, the public library there? Yeah, there's so many shady stuff, incidents that all add up to you don't do that shady kind of stuff unless you know you're trying to target someone, falsely target someone. Patty P, let's see how many Commonwealth witnesses bring their attorneys with them the day they testify. I'd have a lot of fun with that. Boy, if I was a prosecutor calling, having witnesses testify and they have their lawyers showing up, man, that would be really cringy. And so defense, you need to like make a big deal about that, make a huge deal about that every single time. Jen, Liz, you're saying I can't wait to see Brendan against Arca. Well, hopefully Arca is going to get to testify. Hopefully it's just not Brendan against Arca on Monday. Eliza Krogan, you're saying, I think, well, Vinny Politan think Brennan's like doing a good job. Yeah, this is so. He's not. Trust me. Trust me, he's not doing a good job. Turquoise Blue, I think they should do a presentation with a timeline. Yeah, I think they should. Miriam, you're saying defense was able to prove in the first trial that the ring camera existed until it came under Michael Proctor's control, and then it was gone. Yeah. Smart, you're saying MS, so that you're talking about multiple sclerosis, which is what Karen Reed has, affects metabolism with meds and alcohol. Hales, that's interesting. You're saying 10, 15 minutes, not enough time to log into the computer, open the ring, delete the video. I have a ring and I struggle to navigate the app. That's interesting. Kokomo, you're saying frostbite and 18 degree, 25 mile an hour winds, 30 minutes to happen. No frostbite on John. Yeah, where's the frostbite? F.R. Smith, how common is it for a judge to rule on things like the morning video, no reasoning in your experience? Well, it is something they're just trying to admit. So normally it doesn't have to be much of a basis for it. So I would ask for it I would ask the defense to have an explained rationale ruling for the court. Annie LaBelle, you're saying other law channels think Karen is sunk and Bev is doing okay. All right, well, that's fine. I'm not worried about that. You know, a lot of lawyers thought that Alex Murdo, man, his case, he's going to win the case, man. The prosecution's doing so bad. They don't have a good case at all. And I was like, what are they talking about? That Kennel videotape nails it, absolutely nails it. And so proving his guilt. Here we have so many different things that point to something happened other than Karen's vehicle striking John O'Keefe. There's too many other people acting guilty. Ruth Christie, Karen comes across very honest. I don't think she has a mean bone in her body, unlike Jennifer McCabe and Carrie. They seem to be very mean and unlikable. I think that's a true assessment. I think that's how the jury's going to come across. So don't worry about these other attorneys that say, hey, look, this is what we think's going on. I can tell you, look how many people cover true crime that A, are not lawyers, B, even if they are lawyers, they've never done a criminal case. And even if they have done a criminal case, they've never done felony violent crime case. They've never handled a murder case. So, and yet they know, even if they're civil trial lawyers, civil trial law has no comparison to criminal law. It's like nothing even close. They may understand some of the rules of evidence, but they have no idea how to read a jury like you do on a criminal case. Unless you have experience doing felony criminal cases and being also a prosecutor and defense attorney, I just have some experience I believe has been pretty predictable and accurate in how juries interpret evidence. So that's why I'm talking about this, because I can't stand listening to people that act like they know what they're talking about because they have some kind of law degree hanging up, but they've never done criminal cases. All right, so we're oh gosh, we're over 2 hours. So all right, I'm going to take one more question. So thanks y'all for following this case and supporting the cause for justice. You guys have a lot of great questions, great insights. Nobody has all the insights and can think of every minute detail. Yeah, so tomorrow there's no jury, only ARCA. No, ARCA's moved to Monday. ARCA's not going to be tomorrow. They're moved to Monday. So there's just one expert tomorrow, but it's not ARCA. It's a prosecution witness. ARCA, they have the biggest, most sophisticated clients in the world, from NASA to DOD, VA, you name it. They're like top of the line in the field. So to have this joke of a system there in Canton, Dedham area, try to hold these guys out as some kind of a country bumpkin knuckleheads. It's just absolutely insane, ridiculous. If you're saying, do I think the defense holding up this grind throughout the trial? They're coming in hard, and it's awesome. Yeah, I think they do. I think they're so tired of this corruption in this system that they're coming on strong, and they're going to rip these witnesses to shreds that the prosecution's propping up. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. And like I say, tomorrow night I'll be on 6:30 Eastern time on the Young Jerks show, and then I think I'll be having a live stream sometime later that evening, maybe like 8 or 9 o'clock as well. I don't have that announced yet, but I'll announce that sometime tomorrow as well, and we'll have another Q&A and recap what happens tomorrow. It's going to be brief tomorrow. The hearing, it's going to be in briefer today because they only have one expert. Thanks, Vanna. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Sorry I didn't get to all your questions, but stay tuned tomorrow night. I'll have more time to answer more questions. So have a great night and a great Friday. Hope to see you Friday evening.